If you reach for a cup of coffee the second you wake up, well, you are essentially pouring caffeine onto a brain that is already, like, fully caffeinated by its own stress hormones.
Oh, yeah. It is a massive shock to the system.
Right. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking a highly intentional 90 to 120-minute morning routine.
And, we're cutting straight through all that performative noise to look at the actual biology of waking up.
Exactly. Because for those of you listening who love optimizing your day, but absolutely hate information overload, the internet can be a lot.
It really can. The obsession with these rigid, 4 a.m. ascetic lifestyles, it just feels exhausting.
Totally. It's too much. So today we are extracting the practical science-backed elements from this specific routine. We're focusing entirely on the underlying mechanisms of, why they actually work.
Yeah, and the mission here isn't to just copy a hyper-optimized checklist minute by minute. That's not helpful.
No, definitely not.
We are analyzing the physiological and psychological principles of starting the day proactively. When you understand the biological levers you are pulling, you can build a default structure that supports your specific life.
Rather than a rigid list of demands that immediately puts your nervous system on the defensive, right?
Exactly. You want to ease into it, not fight it.
Okay, let's jump straight into the timeline. It's 6 a.m. The alarm goes off.
Here we go.
The very first rule of this routine, and really this is the anchor that sets the conditions for everything else, is a strict ban on the phone for the first 30 minutes.
A non-negotiable ban.
Right. And okay, let's unpack this, because reaching for the phone before your eyes are even fully open is literally like letting 100 strangers into your bedroom to shout their demands at you.
That is a terrifying analogy, but it's so accurate. That 30-minute buffer protects the brain's baseline dopamine levels.
How so?
Well, during sleep, your brain cycles through various frequencies. It ends in these transitional theta and alpha waves of early wakefulness.
It's that groggy, half-awake feeling.
Exactly. And when you immediately check notifications, you force your brain into high-frequency beta waves. You just shock it awake.
So you're basically jolting your system before it's ready.
Yeah, you spike your dopamine in response to unpredictable external stimuli. You're conditioning your neural pathways to crave quick, shallow hits of information for the rest of the day.
Wow. So if you start your morning responding to unread work emails or scrolling through social media algorithms, you are basically handing over your executive function to someone else's agenda.
You really are.
You are forcing your amygdala into a state of hypervigilance, looking for threats or rewards. You're playing defense before you've even stretched.
Right. And by claiming that first half hour, you allow the transition from sleep to wakefulness to happen autonomously. You establish cognitive control.
It sets the tone for the whole day.
It does. The source material emphasizes that this single boundary dictates whether your entire day operates from a proactive mindset, where you decide what matters, or a reactive mindset, where you are merely responding to external emergencies.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so once the mind is shielded from that initial digital intrusion, the immediate next step is tending to the physical body.
Which has been completely dormant, processing and repairing for hours.
Yeah, you're basically a dried up sponge. So the very first physical action is hydration. And the routine keeps a full glass of water right on the nightstand.
So there is zero friction.
Exactly. No walking to the kitchen, no decision making, you just sit up and drink.
And that's crucial because overnight dehydration actually alters your blood plasma levels.
Wait, really?
Yeah, when blood viscosity increases, when your blood gets thicker, it reduces the efficiency of oxygen transport to your brain and muscles.
Oh, wow.
So that classic morning brain fog isn't always sleep inertia. It is frequently just a lack of oxygen to the prefrontal cortex caused by simple fluid loss during respiration and thermoregulation overnight.
Because we sweat and breathe out moisture while we sleep. So rehydrating instantly thins the blood and gets that oxygen flowing again. And there is a fantastic detail in the text here where the author mentions occasionally adding lemon to the water, but they explicitly clarify it is strictly for the taste.
Oh, I loved that part.
Right. No magic detox claims. It is incredibly refreshing to read an admission that your internal organs do the detoxing, not a slice of citrus in your cup.
Yeah, stripping away the wellness pseudoscience allows us to focus on the actual biology. You were just kickstarting basic metabolic functions.
Which feels much more achievable.
It does, and that physiological awakening flows directly into the next physical action, which is movement.
But the source deliberately specifies this does not have to be a punishing high-intensity workout, right?
Not at all. 10 minutes of floor stretching right next to the bed is considered a huge success.
Because the entire strategy relies on lowering the barrier to entry. I noticed the text advises laying out workout clothes the night before and putting shoes directly by the door.
Right, because the hardest part of exercising isn't the physical exertion. It is the cognitive friction of deciding to do it and, gathering your gear.
Finding matching socks can be the thing that stops you from working out.
Literally. By removing the friction, the routine prioritizes consistency over intensity.
And doing some light stretching,
Yeah.
how does that actually help wake us up?
Even a light stretch serves a massive biological function. It stimulates the vestibular system in the inner ear.
The part that governs balance.
Yes, balance and spatial orientation. Activating proprioception, which is your body's awareness of its position in space, it sends powerful wakefulness signals directly to the brainstem.
Oh, that's fascinating. And it also shifts the core body temperature, doesn't it?
It does. Your internal temperature drops naturally during sleep to conserve energy.
Right, which is why we like sleeping in a cool room.
Exactly. So that upward shift in core heat from movement is one of the primary triggers, telling your nervous system that the sleep cycle is officially over.
Okay, so we have rehydrated the vascular system and warmed up the core temperature. But the body still requires a massive environmental cue to fully synchronize its internal clocks, right?
Yes, and this is where the routine mandates getting outside for natural sunlight within the first hour of waking.
Even if it's cloudy.
Even if it is pouring rain, the instruction is to sit by an open window rather than relying on overhead lamps if you absolutely can't get outside.
Wait, okay, I am looking at this specific section on morning sunlight, and the source suddenly pivots to talking about nighttime sleep quality. Aren't we analyzing a morning routine? How do we just jump 14 hours into the future?
Because human biology operates on a continuous interconnected loop. You can't separate the morning from the night.
Okay, fair enough. But why natural sunlight? Why can't I just turn on all the bright lights in my bathroom?
Well, artificial indoor lighting simply does not produce enough lux, which is the standard unit of illuminance, to trigger the necessary biological response.
How big is the difference?
Massive. A standard indoor bulb might project around, say, 500 lux. A cloudy day outside is easily 10,000 lux.
10,000. Wow.
Yeah, and those photons need to physically hit the melanopsin ganglion cells in your retina to suppress melatonin production in the brain.
So the morning routine is actually step one of the sleep routine.
Precisely.
When you suppress melatonin early and decisively with natural light, you are basically setting a biological timer. Your body then knows exactly when to start producing melatonin again, roughly, 14 to 16 hours later?
Exactly. Skipping that sunlight means your internal clock starts to drift.
It gets confused.
Right. Your circadian rhythm becomes unmoored from the actual rotation of the Earth, and that leads directly to lying awake at midnight, wondering why you aren't tired.
Because your body doesn't know what time it actually is.
Hitting your eyes with daylight anchors that entire 24-hour cycle.
Okay, so the body is hydrated, the nervous system is online, and the circadian clock is synchronized. Now it is time to bring the working memory online.
But doing so deliberately.
Right, using paper instead of a screen.
Yeah.
We move into 10 minutes of analog journaling.
Yeah, and the routine involves writing down 3 very specific things.
A moment of gratitude, a single main priority for the day, and a messy brain dump of cluttering thoughts.
And the source notes this frequently turns into a disorganized paragraph that makes absolutely no sense.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
exactly like clearing a computer's RAM. If you leave volatile background thoughts bouncing around your head, like emails you need to send or anxieties about a meeting, they consume active processing power.
They just drain your battery all day long.
So you are moving those short-term data points onto a physical hard drive.
Yeah.
The paper, so your CPU can actually focus on the day's primary tasks without lagging.
Psychologists actually refer to this as the Zeigarnik effect.
The Garnick effect.
Yeah. The human mind has an innate tendency to fixate on unfinished tasks or unresolved thoughts. It continuously brings them back to the forefront of your attention.
Oh, like when a catchy song gets stuck in your head because you didn't hear the end of it?
Exactly like that. By externalizing those unfinished tasks on paper, you trick the brain into feeling like the loop is temporarily closed.
You extract the cognitive load out of your working memory.
You're taking the trash out of the brain before you start working.
So the mind is clear, the RAM is empty, and we are now about 90 minutes into the day.
Mm.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
The coffee.
The coffee.
Yeah.
The source explicitly waits a full hour and a half before having their first cup of coffee. I mean, the restraint required to wake up, stretch, go outside, and journal, all without caffeine, it's intense.
It sounds difficult, but the mechanism behind this delay involves something called the cortisol awakening response.
Okay, break that down for us.
In the first 60 to 90 minutes after waking, your adrenal glands naturally pump out high levels of cortisol to make you alert and mobile.
So you are naturally highly caffeinated by your own biology.
Yes, drinking coffee immediately is like hitting the gas pedal when the engine is already revving at maximum RPMs.
That makes so much sense.
Pouring a central nervous system stimulant, like caffeine, into a system that is already peaking with stress hormones creates a compounding effect.
Which leads to that jittery, wired, anxious state so many people feel in the morning.
Exactly. Furthermore, we have to look at the molecule adenosine.
Right, adenosine, that's the one that builds up in your brain throughout the day to make you feel sleepy, right?
That's correct. And during the night, your body clears it out.
But when you first wake up, there is still a residual amount of adenosine lingering in the receptors. And caffeine works by blocking those adenosine receptors.
You got it. When you consume caffeine immediately upon waking, it locks the receptors, but that morning adenosine is still floating around in the background.
It's just waiting.
It is. So when the caffeine is eventually metabolized and its effects wear off a few hours later, all of that pent-up adenosine floods the receptors simultaneously.
Oh, wow. So that biological bottleneck is the cause of the dreaded afternoon crash.
That is exactly what causes the crash.
So by waiting 90 minutes, you allow your body to naturally clear out that morning adenosine on its own.
Yep. Your natural cortisol spike begins to taper off, and then you introduce caffeine as a clean physiological bridge.
It results in a smoother, sustained boost of energy without the overstimulation or the inevitable crash.
And during this delayed coffee ritual, the source just sits quietly for 5 to 10 minutes. It functions as the reward at the end of the grounding process.
I love that. And only after this entire sequence is completed, the hydration, the light exposure, the movement, the extraction of cognitive load, and the delayed caffeine, only then does this person finally open their laptop and look at their calendar.
Because approaching the day's demands from a neurologically grounded state is the ultimate objective. If you check your inbox before you have established this baseline, external pressures dictate your internal state.
Right. And when they finally do look at the task list, they don't attempt to conquer 20 different items. They select just 3 priorities.
Just 3.
These become the North Star for the day, preventing the paralysis of choice and keeping the focus ruthlessly tight.
Proactive planning ensures you are deciding where your attention goes, rather than letting the loudest notification dictate your workflow.
It's so intentional. You know, when we step back and look at the entire architecture of this routine, the most crucial takeaway is its scalability.
That's a great point.
The source explicitly admits that on rush days, this 2-hour sequence shrinks down to just the biological bare minimum: a glass of water and 5 minutes of sunlight.
Having a default structure prevents the morning from unraveling entirely, even when life gets chaotic.
So for you listening right now, the goal is not to adopt this entire routine tomorrow morning. Pick one highly specific variable from this deep dive.
Just one.
Maybe it's keeping water by the bed, or maybe waiting 30 minutes before unlocking your phone. Implement just that one mechanism consistently for 2 weeks and observe the shift in your focus.
Modifying a single variable lowers the barrier to entry and builds the consistency needed for actual physiological change. But, consider a concept teased at the very end of our source material. We just spent this entire deep dive intensely analyzing how to manipulate light, dopamine, and cortisol to optimize the morning.
Right.
But could it be that your evening wind-down routine and the biological environment you create the night before is actually the true start of a successful morning?
Oh, I love that.
Right.
If the morning routine is the harvest, the night before is when you plant the seeds.
Exactly.
That is definitely something to analyze the next time you turn off the lights. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Pick your one biological habit, test it out, and we'll see you next time.